Hi, I'm Ken Brousseau. Today, I'd like to introduce you to the Decision Dynamics CareerView model of career concepts and career motivations. I'm going to take you through each of the concepts and their associated motivations. Then we'll have a look at some actual profiles of people who have been assessed using our CareerView assessment. And then I'll talk about how you can put the concepts and the assessments to work for yourself or for people in your organization or for your clients. So here we go. Careers come in many shapes and sizes. I sometimes meet people who think they don't have a career simply because they're not pursuing any path that they've ever heard described in terms of being a traditional career track. But if you have activities, even if those activities are not for financial purposes, I consider you to have a career. The question is, what are those activities? How do they line up? How do they connect with each other? That's the pattern that we look at when we think about careers. So there are many possibilities. Let's consider some of those possibilities. Here's a scenario. You're walking down a street, you come to a street corner, the don't walk sign is illuminated. You're standing there waiting, some people come up behind you, and you hear one of the people say to the others, "Gosh, hasn't Gene had a fantastic career?" So that kind of captures your interest. You lean back a little bit to catch the rest of the conversation. But the light changes and the traffic sounds drown out the rest of the conversation. So you're left with whatever image jumped into your mind about Gene and Gene's fantastic career. So I ask you, what image just popped into your mind? Think about it. Don't think too long, just what popped immediately into your mind. Okay, well, here's one possibility, and this is an image that quite frequently pops into people's heads. Maybe not as quite frequently as it did a decade or two ago, but it's still there for sure. Maybe Gene has climbed the Great Pyramid and now commands a great empire or a huge organization. This is a pretty commonplace image of career success, a great, fantastic career. But it's not the only one. Let's take a tour of what the other possibilities are. Basically, I'm going to talk about four very different ideas about career success. I think you'll see how very different these ideas are. And we'll begin with this one. This is basically what we've been talking about so far, that climbing of the pyramid. Our word for this particular career concept is linear, in that it's a linear progression straight up a ladder toward higher and higher levels of authority and responsibility. It's a classical conception of an ideal career track, and it's been around for a long time. Probably it had its origins with the Roman army, with the Roman army's emphasis on a hierarchical organization structure of layers upon layers of increasing authority and power. That's the linear concept. And for people who subscribe to this view of the ideal career, it's really the only career concept that makes sense. This is what a person thinks about when they think of career advancement. It means up. Up is the only way that makes sense. That's the linear career concept. This next one has been around for a very long time too. We call it the expert career concept. Its focus is on a particular occupation or discipline. Person makes a choice very early on in one's working career to concentrate on a particular type of work, a particular function, a particular discipline, and they stick with that. Once they make that choice in the classic expert career concept, they stick with it perhaps for their entire career. And during that time, they put their effort and energy into becoming more and more proficient at the skills and knowledge that are part of this discipline, this work they perform. People who subscribe strongly to the expert career concept, when they get up in the morning and they look in the mirror, they see the face of someone who does a particular kind of work. That the kind of work a person does becomes an essential, central part of their self-identity, who they see themselves as being. So for them, if they were to pursue a linear career track and climb up the ladder, They might make more money, they might have more power, but the essential problem for them is that they're getting farther and farther away from the work itself that has come to define them. And that's not a good picture. So linear and expert. Both of these have been around for a long, long time. Here's another one, though, that it's probably been around for a long time, but it hasn't been officially anointed, so to speak, as a legitimate career track until the last few decades. And now it really is here. It's the spiral. And in this version of an ideal career, one begins working in a particular discipline function, but then makes periodic changes, maybe every 5 to 7 years or so. The person will make a lateral shift. It might have an upward component, but the important thing is that it's a movement between one type of work into a different type of work. That new type of work isn't just completely different from what the person's been doing before. It's probably allied to what the person has been doing before, but it requires learning new skills and acquiring new knowledge. And that's what makes it interesting and attractive. That's the spiral career concept. These moves take place every 5 to 7 years or so. I think of this as being the 7-year itch of careers. And those instances that precede making a shift can be kind of painful in a way, in that a person may see some other type of work that looks more and more interesting and intriguing, and pressure builds and builds until finally they make the move, and then life is good again. They're doing something that's really stimulating, interesting, exciting. They're learning new things, but the time goes by, and eventually another 5 or 7 years goes by, and they're starting to feel that restlessness again. That's a part of the spiral career. So over the course of time, the person may find that they're doing something in the future very, very different from where they began, but they've acquired a broad set of skills and pretty deep knowledge too. They don't want to be jacks of all trades. They want to really feel some degree of mastery, even if they're not the expert guru, but they want to know that they are really on top of what they're doing. They know what they're doing. But that's not going to last forever. They're going to want to make another move and explore something else in the future. That's the spiral. This next one here, that icon you see, is just what it looks like. It's a consistent pattern of inconsistency. And now we're talking about a lot of change. Every 2, 3 years, moving from one type of work to a new type of work that's maybe utterly different, completely different from anything that the person has done before. And that's what makes it attractive. So it's a very fast-moving, very exploratory, other type of career. Other people may think of it as being chaotic, but for the person who's experiencing it, it's just making life very interesting to move from one thing to something very different, and then to move on into something, again, that's very different. And that pattern can go on and on into the future. Sometimes people who pursue this kind of career get some strange looks from friends, associates, family members who think, haven't you ever decided what you want to be when you grow up? But that's not the point for them. The point is that the world is full of possibilities, and they're very intriguing, and that's what makes life rich and stimulating. So those are the 4 career concepts. You can see here that they are very different from each other. The expert career concept is utterly different from the transitory career concept. Yet you can find people who line up behind the expert concept, wouldn't want to have anything to do with any kind of a transitory career. And likewise, people who want to have that transitory experience would see an expert career path as being like locked in on a straitjacket. So they are very, very different career concepts. It's actually quite striking that people can have such really different ideas about what an ideal career experience might be. Where does this all come from? Where do these differences originate? Well, in part, most of us get a good deal of career advice when we're young from parents, primary caregivers, teachers. You're going to be a great business executive, or you're going to be a really fantastic engineer, or you're going to be a great doctor. But that's not enough to explain these really radical differences. As it turns out, this is a topic that my colleagues and I have spent a good deal of time researching. In the research we've done, we've looked at the correlation between how people view the ideal career and the motivations they bring with them to the workplace, what they're looking for, the kinds of rewards they want to experience. So if you think about it, someone who has a linear idea of what the ideal career track may be is probably looking for different kinds of rewarding experiences than someone, for example, who thinks the expert career is the ideal. Or again, someone who thinks the transitory idea is a great career track. Very different motivations underlie these ideas of the ideal career. So I'm going to share with you the results of the research that we've done on this topic, and I think you'll see what I mean. Very different motivations underlie these concepts of the ideal career track. Our first stop on our exploration of career motivations is the linear career. And what I'm showing here is the results of our research on this particular career concept. The key motivation for the linear career is power. Power to influence important events that make a difference. And secondarily, achievement. So the ability to be able to influence important events that achieve important goals and objectives, both personal and business-wise. Those are the key motivations for the linear career. But as you can see here, there are many other motivations that go along with the linear career. Power and achievement are just the two at the top of the hierarchy. There's a long list of other motivations, not quite as powerful, but they are there. So what that says is that people who see the linear career track as ideal are likely to find it a bit difficult to achieve full-scale career satisfaction for the simple fact that there are many motivations to satisfy. Even if you are able to satisfy the need for power and influence and achievement, there still may be other motivations that are going to kind of be nagging at you. And it may be difficult to find any one place and time to get all of the motivations that are important to you fully satisfied. But nonetheless, power to influence important events, to achieve important goals and objectives, those are definitely the key motivations for the linear career. The second set of motives that we're going to look at are the expert motivations. And this is very simple compared to the linear career. Expertise and security are the two key motivations. The opportunity to maintain and refine one's expert skills and knowledge in some chosen field or discipline is an essential part of the expert motivation set, along with security. And what that really means is that people who subscribe to the expert career track and see that as ideal, they want to have the opportunity to maintain and refine those expert skills and knowledge, and they want to have a secure and stable workplace in which to continue that journey toward expertise. If they have those two things, the opportunities to refine and maintain expert skills and knowledge, and they have a stable workplace in which to do that, that can mean full-scale work satisfaction. Our next career concept is the spiral. And it's a bit like the linear career concept in that there are many motivations that are associated with the spiral career. The ones I'm showing here are merely the top of the iceberg, so to speak. Personal growth, creativity, and nurturance. Personal growth, the opportunity to learn new skills and knowledge, and then to apply those broadening skills and knowledge to creative endeavors to produce something that's new and innovative. Nurturance is a bit different. I'm not sure why it's in there, but it does come out in our surveys, is nurturance. And that's the ability to help other people grow and develop too. And I find in organizations where there's a call for people to be career mentors for others, the people who come out of the woodwork to sign up for those mentoring roles typically are people with a lot of spiral motivations. They themselves want to grow and develop, and they also want to provide other people with the same opportunities for growth and development. In some cases, I've seen them become rather militant about this. They will make sure that everyone has the opportunity to learn as many skills and knowledge as they can. The problem there is not everyone wants that, but nonetheless, from the spiral standpoint, that's what's really best: learning, developing, creating. The fourth is the transitory. And here again, kind of like the expert, ironically, in that it's so different from the expert, it's similar in this way. It's very simple: novelty, independence, and people involvement. People pursuing transitory career tracks are attracted to novelty, variety, new things. They like to get involved in activities where they have a lot of independence to do things in whatever way makes sense to them, rather than following someone else's rule book and guidelines. Involvement with other people is a tertiary but very important motivational factor. So stepping back, the ideal circumstance for someone pursuing a transitory career track is to be able to go off to someplace new with a brand new set of colleagues and associates to do something that one has never done before. If they have that, life is good. That's the transitory motivational set. Okay, now we can step back and see the big picture and compare these four sets of career concepts and their associated motives and gain a deeper appreciation for how distinctly different they are and the extent to which they describe very different career experiences. We can see the linear with its emphasis on steady progress up a ladder toward higher and higher levels of authority and responsibility, with the emphasis being on power and achievement as key motivations for that particular career. The expert, on the other hand, can stay in one place and focus on one type of work for a lengthy period of time, maybe for the whole duration of a person's career. And there the emphasis is motivationally on expertise and security. We can see the spiral with this emphasis on lateral movement rather than upward movement. It's not staying in one place. It's very different from both the expert and the linear. And here the emphasis motivationally is on personal growth, learning, creativity, and nurturance, helping other people grow and develop. And then finally, we have the transitory. It says lateral here, but in fact, it could be any direction. And there's a lot of movement. Every 2 or 4 years, a person's making changes into new fields and new experiences. And there, motivationally, the emphasis is on novelty, independence, and people involvement. So you can see, as I said, these constellations of concepts and motives describe really fundamentally different career experiences. So I want to give you a few examples of what I mean by those different kinds of career experiences, translating them into particular kinds of career tracks in the world of work. On this page here, I show several different combinations of career concepts, and I want to say a word about that. Most people don't just fall into one career concept category, linear or just expert. Usually there's a couple of career concept categories that stand out more prominently than the others in a person's profile. So for example, a person might score a little bit higher on expert and linear compared to transitory and spiral. In that particular combination, linear and expert or expert and linear would be a really good fit with a career track as a functional manager. That would be the kind of career in which a person would climb the ladder, but staying always within a particular functional or discipline boundary. For example, engineering, moving up that ladder within engineering, or within information systems, or it could be marketing. The idea is the person rises up, that fits the linear aspect of their profile, but they stay within a particular specialty, and that fits well with the expert theme in their CareerView profile. A combination of transitory and linear, on the other hand, is a much better fit with a career track as an independent business owner and manager, people who manage their own small enterprises. They get to call the shots. That satisfies the linear. But on the other hand, it's a small enterprise. They're going to have to do a lot of different things, wear a lot of different hats. So that track as an independent business owner manager is a really good fit for that particular combination. If expert and spiral are the two concept categories that stand out most in a person's profile, then that's likely to be a good fit with a general consultant, someone who has a good deal of expertise, but isn't just real specialized. It could be applied across a range of different applications and circumstances. If, on the other hand, expert and transitory are the key categories that stand out in a person's profile, then that's going to be a really good fit with an independent consultant, someone who's willing to go anywhere, anytime, not to do just anything, to do their particular specialized thing. The combination of transitory and spiral is a really good fit with the classic entrepreneur or intrapreneur career track, someone who's always involved in something innovative, inventive, creative, someone who's sparking new ideas, can be a spark plug for change. And finally, we come to the linear spiral or spiral linear combination. This is one of the more common combinations I find among people in management. And the ideal career track for anyone with this particular combination is that of a management generalist, someone who rotates through a number of different functions, departments, units, and over time develops a broad set of general management skills and can move into most any kind of a management situation, know how to deal with people who are functional specialists in whatever that particular function is they're working in at the time, and then move on to even a very different kind of functional department. They're bringing with them a set of broad skills that fit most any kind of management situation. So you can see, we've just talked about a number of very different career tracks dependent on what the themes are in a person's CareerView career concept profile. You can also map career concepts to job characteristics. For example, expert. The expert concept is a great fit with jobs in high technology area where there's a lot of specialized skill and knowledge required. And the performance criteria emphasize precision and accuracy. The time horizon for task accomplishment is relatively long-term, not hour by hour and day by day. Linear is a great match with positions of high responsibility in jobs that have high visibility. There's a lot of opportunity to influence and direct the activities of other people, and there are significant people management challenges. And the position is a clear stepping stone to higher level positions. Spiral is a great fit with emerging technologies where a position or a job is embedded in a circumstance that's highly interdisciplinary, where there are great opportunities for learning new skills and developing new capabilities. And there's a significant demand for creativity and innovation. And likewise, there are good opportunities for people development as well. Transitory, on the other hand, is a great fit with positions in very dynamic circumstances where there's very little routine, there's a lot of variety, things change relatively frequently. Diverse skills are needed, even if they aren't necessarily the deep skills, but you have to know a lot of different things. You have to wear a lot of different hats. And there's a lot of autonomy. You don't have to follow a rigid prescription for how to accomplish the work. And there is a lot of involvement with all kinds of different people. Okay, time to look at some profiles. In case you haven't ever done a CareerView assessment profile through the Decision Dynamics system, let me just say a few words about how they're set up. You get two profiles, one for your ideal career concepts, i.e., what you see as being the ideal career. You get scores for each of the career concepts, linear, expert, so on. So we tend to look at the strength of your scores there to judge basically the kind of career track you see as being ideal. That's one profile. The other profile is career motivations. Now they correlate. Through the research that we've done, we can see that the kinds of motivations that are important for people do correspond to their views about the ideal career, but the correlations are not perfect. So in a sense, what you get back is a look at what's in your head, your ideal career concepts, and what's in your heart, your career motivations. Ideally, they're aligned. There's no difference between what's in your head and what's in your heart. Well, that's ideal. It doesn't always work out that way. There is the relationship. In general, there's an agreement, but we see a good many exceptions to that where people's heads and hearts seem not to be clearly aligned. So I'm going to show you several profiles here of people we've actually assessed using the CareerView assessment, and you'll see what I mean. Stand by. Let me introduce you to Sandra. Sandra is a real person whom we assessed with the CareerView assessment, and this is her profile. As you can see, there are two profiles here. One in front, the blue profile, the one in back, the red profile. The blue bars up front represent Sandra's ideal career concepts profile, and you can see the scores that stand out most prominently are in the linear and spiral category. So she would have the profile up front, at least what's in her head, of being a good fit with a general management career track, linear and spirals. It could be spiral and linear. That's Sandra up front, her ideal career concepts. We look at the back row, the red bars, those are her career motives. Now, what should be really apparent here is that she's very closely aligned with her head and her heart. It's basically the same profile in front and in back. Yeah, the score is a little bit higher on the spiral than we see for her ideal career concept, but that's a minor issue. The same two themes stand out most prominently in her career motive profile as they do in her career concepts profile. So the bottom line here is this is good news for Sandra. If she just follows her head, she'll probably find her way in the kinds of job circumstances that will fit her motivations as well. If she just follows her heart, same thing. She's likely to find herself in positions that line up in a way that makes sense to her as an ideal career track. So ideally, we'd all look a lot like Sandra, but as I said, they don't always line up so clearly as they do in her case. Let's have a look at Joe. Okay, so Joe, right away, you can see, even though he has a very similar profile to Sandra's in the front row, his ideal career concepts, his back row looks very different. In the back, we see a very high score, as a matter of fact, on expert. He does have a secondary on spiral like Sandra did, but he's expert spiral. He's the kind of person who motivationally would be a good fit with a career track as a general consultant. However, his blue bars suggest that he thinks he should be climbing the pyramid, ascending a ladder toward higher and higher levels of responsibility and authority. And as a consultant, that isn't necessarily the kind of track you're going to follow unless you try to follow a linear career track in a big consulting firm. But that's not what we mean in terms of the expert spiral track. We mean someone who actually goes out into the field and works as a general consultant. And that would be a real good fit for Joseph in his career motives. So his head and his heart aren't so clearly aligned. He's kind of in a tough spot because if he does follow his head and he works his way into a job track where he's climbing the ladder steadily, he'll probably feel like he's being successful. He's doing what he should do. But the truth of the matter is he may not be enjoying what he's doing. He may be frustrated by all the people management stuff he has to do. He may or may not like issuing orders, creating strategies for other people to follow and so forth. But he'll think he's doing the right thing, but he's not enjoying it much. On the other hand, if he didn't do that and he followed his heart and he went off and worked as a general consultant, he would probably be enjoying the process, but he might be nagged by that feeling like he really should have hunkered down. He should have climbed that ladder. He should have done what his father or his mother or someone said and become a powerful leading executive someplace. So he's kind of in a tough spot if he follows his head or he follows his heart. And what he needs to do is get his head and heart aligned. Now, in my experience working with people who have profiles like Joe, where their head and their heart doesn't clearly align, is that it's relatively easy to tip the scale and get the person to see what they probably actually have been experiencing all along. My hunch is that Joe, if he was trying to follow that linear career track, would really somewhere in the back of his mind know that's not what I really want. I really like to sink my teeth into doing some real work. I like it when people recognize me for my technical competence. So even a short exposure to the CareerView model, even if he didn't do the assessment, he might have a eureka experience and that, aha, of course, this all makes so much sense. It's going to be a lot better if he can actually do a CareerView assessment and see graphically what we're talking about. Here's another one. This is Sarah. Sarah has in front expert and spiral. So intellectually, mentally, in her head, she's a good fit with general consultant career track, where she goes out into the field and she provides expert advice in a lot of different settings regarding a lot of different issues and maybe does some creative consulting along the way. However, look at those red bars. They're all pretty high. 3 of them are way at the top of the scale. Now, this is kind of an extreme example, but I see people with this kind of profile not infrequently. I have a particular name for Sarah's profile. I call it the good news, bad news profile. So for Sarah, the good news is that no matter what she does, with all those motivations working for her, she's probably going to find some important satisfactions in it. Something's going to hit the spot for her. That's the good news. The bad news is that no matter what she does, she's probably going to feel that something's missing. Something she wants just isn't there. So oftentimes people with this good news, bad news profile feel like, oh man, what's wrong with me? Why I see other people, they seem to be so satisfied with what they're doing, yet I never seem to feel like I'm doing the right thing, or I always feel something's missing or something like that. And what I do with people like that is I assure them that there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with Sarah. She just has a lot of motivations that are important for her. So her breadth of experience should be pretty wide. Now, true, it's difficult to find any one place and time where you're going to get all these motivations satisfied. That's probably not going to happen. But there are different aspects of life. People have avocational interests. They have hobbies. And oftentimes they can get motivations satisfied through some avocational interest or some other kind of activity outside the workplace that does fulfill some need that otherwise isn't going to be gratified through work experience. Or it could be that what Sarah needs to do is just make sure she keeps on the move, that she doesn't stay in just one place for lengthy periods of time, that she does rotate through different kinds of experiences over time, and at least sequentially, she can address those motivations that are right there. Because what I find out, if you ignore motivations like these, especially high ones like Sarah, they're going to bite at your heels. They're not going to just go away. They're going to nibble at your satisfaction. They're going to create some discontent. So you really need to be aware of what they are and take steps, at least over time, to feed these satisfactions. You got to give them good care and feeding. And there you have it. That's all the material I'm going to present on this topic today. Let's take a quick review of what we've talked about. I've described the 4 fundamentally different basic career patterns: linear, expert, spiral, transitory, and their associated motives. I've showed how different combinations of career concepts can be used to describe some very different career tracks. I've talked about the association between career concepts and the kinds of jobs and work assignments that fit well with people. We've reviewed several very different CareerView assessment profiles, and we've talked about the meaning that you can extract from looking at a person's assessment profile, particularly looking at the relationship between one's head, what concepts a person has in mind for an ideal career track, and what motives they bring with them to work. And we've talked about the importance of helping people align their heads and their hearts so that their view of the ideal career is consistent with the motives they have, so to speak, in their hearts. For you, there should be some real value in being exposed to this material and helping you navigate the complex world of work with your headlights on, so to speak, more insights than perhaps you had before. For leaders, this material can be used to enhance leaders' views of the diversity of motives that people on their team most likely have, and the link between those motives and the kinds of work assignments they have. Overall, this should help leaders and members of their team develop a deeper appreciation for diversity in motivation and understand that there is no one size that fits all situations. Diversity is valuable. If you know it and you can recognize it, you can use it. If you have clients, you can use the CareerView model with your clients to help them improve the fit between people and their work assignments, and help them see how different kinds of rewards are needed to deal with the diversity of talent that they have in their organizations, and overall build a deeper, stronger appreciation for the value of diversity. Thank you very much.